Hi again, everyone. This is Mary at the Reiki Place. And this time in our deep dive series, we're talking about the third eye. I do go into a little bit of the physical stuff, which if you've been following this series of videos that I've been making, you know I like to get into the physical conditions that can occur when you have a block in any of your chakras. So in this one, the third eye, one of the most important blocks, I think, is the depression and anxiety that can be caused from the blocks in the melatonin and serotonin production, which I get into. If you have any comments on this type of material, if it helped you in any way, or if you know of somebody it can help, if you could please share the material. I think it's so important to get the word out that there are natural ways, natural interventions, natural modalities that we can use to fight depression and anxiety, that it doesn't have to be resorting to drugs. And so, yeah, please do like, share, and comment on the video, and we'll get right into it. Thanks for watching. The third eye, ajna, to know. We'll be exploring these concepts of wisdom, intuition, knowledge, discernment, imagination, creativity. The third eye chakra, which is in the middle of your forehead, connects to the pineal gland, which is in the middle of your brain. Here is a picture of a pineal gland in the middle of the brain. As with all things in nature, there are fractal patterns, and so I just found it interesting to notice. This is the tree of life, a picture of the tree of life, the arbor vitae, and it has little pine cones, because it's an evergreen, that are just shaped exactly like the pineal gland. I just found that really interesting because Thuya, one of the Thuya as a homeopathic remedy, one of the qualities of Thuya can be that you feel like you're being controlled by a higher power. And in fact, through your third eye, you are being controlled by a higher power, which is your higher self, as well as maybe your spirit guides and angels as well. And just for reference, I gave you these other fractal patterns in nature. The roots of a tree are the exact same blueprint as the veins and the arteries that run through the human body. So those veins that nourish the tree are the same as the veins that nourish the human. There are lots and lots of fractals in nature. This series is not about that, but I just found this one especially interesting. So the pine cone is very symbolic, and nature knows this. And the Vatican also knows that the pine cone represents the third eye, or the intuition, or the connection to the higher energies. And as if putting that big old pine cone in front of the Vatican weren't proof enough that they know the pine cone and the pineal gland are related, then check out the fact that on each side of the pineal gland are these two peacocks, universal symbol of the third eye. The pineal gland is primarily known for producing melatonin and serotonin. These are the two hormones. Remember that the endocrine system, of which the pineal gland is one of the endocrine glands, produce the hormones that control the body. So these are two big ones. So melatonin regulates sleep cycles, in particular your circadian rhythms. We'll take a look at that. And serotonin regulates mood. So that's the one that they address with all the antidepressant medications. And we'll get into that as well. So melatonin actually influences different cycles, not just sleeping and waking cycles. Without it, you may not get a good night's sleep if you're low in melatonin. So in other words, if your third eye is blocked, you might not be such a good sleeper. The circadian rhythm is how you tune into the natural cycle of things. So, for example, it helps dogs recognize when they need to shed, when their coat needs to shed. Melatonin levels are higher in children and teenagers. So this might explain why teenagers like to sleep so much, is that they actually really can't help it because this is what their body is demanding for them to do because they're going through so many changes. They need sleep for their body to catch up to itself. So it's melatonin. And here is serotonin. Serotonin is what they address with SSRIs, the antidepressant medications. So I'm going to talk a little bit about antidepressants. And if this doesn't interest you, please do fast forward a little bit past this. But serotonin is a neurotransmitter used in the brain to regulate mood. However, 95% of serotonin is produced in your gut, not in your brain, and it has a role in intestinal and digestive health. And this is why when people start taking SSRIs, they can often get an upset stomach, IBS, constipation, diarrhea. You can see the link to a government website there, the National Institutes of Health, where they talk about this link. It's a real thing, and it's well known by those who prescribe serotonin. By those who prescribe SSRIs. So SSRIs are among the most dangerous drugs on the market and have been proven to lead to suicide. There is a really good discussion of this in the book, The Genie in Your Genes by Dawson Church. I do encourage you to read that if you are interested in how SSRIs operate in you, especially if you're taking them. Long-term, in that book, he talks about this. The long-term use of SSRIs can actually change the shape of your brain by shrinking the prefrontal cortex and enlarging the amygdala. Now, the prefrontal cortex is your reasoning, your logical reasoning, your ability to reason through things and stay rational. And your amygdala is the center of fight or flight. So when you go into trigger mode, the amygdala, they call it the amygdala response. In fight or flight mode, in amygdala trigger mode, the prefrontal cortex is shut down. Because if you are in danger, if your life is in danger, you need to react now, not stop and think about it. And that's why the brain shuts down the prefrontal cortex, rational, logical thinking, and sends you into fight or flight mode. Now, in a life or death situation, this is very helpful, but in many situations that are not life or death, this can get you in trouble. So when you use SSRIs over the long term, the prefrontal shrinking can become permanent, and the enlarging of the amygdala can become permanent. That means when you are around people who are on SSRIs, or if you have been on SSRIs for a long time, the people around you are treading on eggshells because you're very easily triggered and you've stopped using your logical reasoning as much as you used to. And I've actually lived through this with somebody who was on these, and this happened. So, when I read this in Dawson Church, The Genie in Your Genes, it resonated with me deeply because I had just been a personal witness to that happening to somebody. There are many natural ways that you can regulate your mood, and we'll talk about some of them here. This is not a comprehensive study of that, but I'll mention some. Reiki always helps. This is one of the things that Reiki is absolutely good at. And you don't have to, you can do Reiki remotely. You don't have to leave your house to receive Reiki. You can find a good practitioner. I'm a Reiki practitioner, or you can find one local to you, or you can find another one that resonates with you and receive Reiki if you are suffering from depression or anxiety. It's very, very helpful. It's one of the best things. It's one of the reasons why I do Reiki, because I've seen for myself the benefits that has produced in clients. Again, please just skip over this part of the discussion if you're not interested in this. But there are many SSRIs. I've listed some of them down here at the bottom of the slide, and the number of people in 2020 that were taking them. And if you add up the numbers, it comes to 112 million. And that's just these four. 112 million prescriptions of SSRIs in 2020. So all of them are going to have similar label warnings. So I just picked one. This one happens to be Lexapro, prescribed to 26 million people in 2020. Suicidal thoughts or action warning. An increase in suicidal thoughts or actions can occur in Lexapro with children, teenagers, and young adults. Serotonin syndrome warning. It can cause a condition called serotonin syndrome, which can be life-threatening. Serotonin syndrome will result in these things: agitation, hallucinations, changes in mental status, muscle twitching, problems with coordination, nausea, vomiting, and diarrhea. And discontinuation of treatment should not be stopped suddenly. It can cause irritability, agitation, dizziness, anxiety, headache, difficulty sleeping, and confusion can occur when Lexapro is suddenly stopped. Suicide syndrome can also be increased when you suddenly stop. And again, I've been personal witness to this during my lifetime. Manic episodes, warning, with when you're taking this drug. So this is a serious drug, and if you are on it, please do not go cold turkey. Do work with your doctor to bring down your dosages, but I encourage you, if you are taking this, to do some research. And again, Reiki, biofield tuning, acupuncture, acupressure, reflexology. Doing something alternative is a much safer way to go. And you will get good results, especially with Reiki and biofield tuning. Those are two modalities that I do. And I've witnessed this many times for myself, that this does help people working through depression and anxiety to find great relief and move to a place of greater happiness, greater stability, and get a lot more clarity on where they're going with their life and what they want to do. Here are some healthy ways that you can heal depression. Now, when you are out in the sunshine, it will encourage the release of serotonin. Serotonin is the mood regulator. Also, the trees put out a frequency. All things put out a frequency, and the earth has its own frequency. It's called the Schumann resonance. So when you connect with Earth's frequency, which you can do walking barefoot on the grass, or just walking in nature, the energy of the trees put out a frequency that is particularly calming and soothing to humans. So it's really helpful to do that. And then if the sun is shining, you're getting your serotonin and your melatonin are growing. The sun will also help to unblock the pineal gland. Spending time with animals. Animals are very tuned in with their third eye. They are very telepathic. Pets are very telepathic. You probably have stories of your own pets, how they just kind of seem to know things. They're not shy about listening to their intuition. They follow their voice of inner guidance all the time. Getting a Reiki treatment, we talked about that. Eating fruits, vegetables, and herbs. In particular, herbs have very concentrated energies that are very helpful for this part of your body, especially the pineal gland, but all of you in general. So eating fresh, I'm talking about fresh herbs. You can grow your own on your windowsill, and a little goes a long way because they have concentrated power, but definitely the living things, fruits, vegetables, herbs, beans, lentils, rice, all of those kinds of things, but especially fruits and vegetables and herbs. So if you've been following this series, you might be beginning to see the relationship between your body, your system of systems, mind, body, spirit. As with serotonin, when you take a pill that is designed to address serotonin levels, it affects all serotonin levels, including the 95% of serotonin that is produced in the gut, in the intestine. So the drug operates on all of it, and that's why you get messed. You're trying to address one thing, but you get messed up somewhere else. And this is why drugs always have side effects. Chemicals always have side effects. Natural remedies like Reiki, biofield tuning, homeopathy, these don't have the same kinds of side effects. They don't work in the same way because energy modalities go to the root cause of the problem. The reason why you are not producing enough serotonin. Instead of just trying to chemically regulate your serotonin level, energy modalities will look for the root cause of why your body isn't regulating it by itself, because that's what your body is designed to do. And then when you correct that imbalance, then the rest of you starts to work the way it was supposed to. That's what I mean by the system of systems. When you push on one thing, it always affects something else because your parts of your body are not isolated. Another great property of the pineal gland is that it is piezoelectric. So I have a picture here of a cigarette lighter or a barbecue lighter, however you want to think of that. The way that it works is there is a spark wheel, which is usually metal, and there is a stone, which is usually a flint or flint derived product, and then there's the gas. So when you strike the wheel, it creates a spark from the flint because flint is piezoelectric, and the spark lights the gas, and then you have your flame. So the pineal gland is very similar. There are tiny calcite crystals inside your pineal gland, and they float in liquid. And when your pineal gland is blocked, the crystals calcify, and the liquid calcifies, and so the crystals cannot float around inside the liquid the way that they're supposed to. But when you unblock your pineal gland, then you can get sparks of creativity and spiritual awareness or spiritual awakening or listening to your inner guidance, to your higher self messages. You can, I quoted another government article down here from National Institutes of Health about how the pineal gland is piezoelectric. So this is real stuff. And when it's blocked, you see, your intuition is blocked as well. When melatonin and serotonin aren't being produced in proper balance, then neither is your intuition working very well. This can block your creativity, your imagination. All of that comes through the pineal gland. People who receive Reiki, which unblocks the pineal gland, often report seeing colors in their inner eye. Or they close their eyes and they're seeing colors when they're receiving Reiki. This is because the Reiki energy is high vibration energy, and it sparks the crystals of the pineal gland so that their piezoelectric effect creates different colors. And in fact, this is the exact same effect, again, a fractal in nature, as above, so below. The aurora of the aurora borealis and the southern lights as well, northern lights and southern lights, is caused when the sun emits charged particles, in other words, high vibration energy, and it interacts with the energy of the earth. In other words, the Earth's aura, which is the Earth's magnetic field, the magnetosphere. So the magnetosphere is Earth's aura, and the heliosphere is the sun's aura. And when those two energies interact, it can spark, the particles in the ionosphere, and that creates the aurora borealis. But what it really is the same effect as striking a lighter or applying Reiki to the pineal gland. Your pineal gland is both a receiver and a transmitter. It's the crystals in the pineal gland that are capable of receiving and transmitting. We're going to get into that. All creativity comes through the pineal, and prayer activates the pineal. Prayer is the pineal gland transmitting. When you pray, or when you're having thoughts about other people or worries about other people, all of that is energy that you are transmitting into the collective. So in case you had any doubt, your prayers really are heard by the universe because your pineal gland transmits them. It transmits your thoughts. So we can take a look at crystal radios. They were built with real crystals, and they still use crystals in most electronics today. Here's a picture of one from Steampunk, where he shows how he made a crude radio receiver transmitter using, in this case, galena, which is lead crystal. And then on the other side, he shows a much more refined one where he used a diode. So we're going to look at crystals and diodes in electronics because crystals do have the unique property that they can receive and transmit information. You can program them. So a diode is made of quartz crystal. This particular component that I'm showing you here is a crystal quartz oscillator. That is the timing device in all electronic equipment. Needs to have a crystal quartz oscillator because it times the signals, the inputs and the outputs, and all kinds of sophisticated timing going on down there at the PC board level. It looks like a metal component, but at its heart, it's made of crystal. So what is quartz crystal? It's silicon dioxide. Silicon dioxide is quartz, silica plus oxygen. Sand is made of silicon dioxide. This is one of the reasons why it feels so good to be on the beach, is because you are standing, walking, sunbathing on all that beautiful quartz energy. Then, of course, electronics, the chips, the microprocessors are made from silicon. Silica, that's why they call it Silicon Valley. And then glass is also made from silica and other things, often silica and lead or silica and silver. And so we're looking at the glass here, not the beer. Beer is not made from silica, but the glass that is containing the beer is made from silica. So silica is also one of the most prominent minerals of the human body. Your body, your hair, your nails, your skin all contain silica. Here are more crystals that receive and transmit, the Great Pyramids. And here is a quote from Wikipedia, which I think is interesting because, we love to hate Wikipedia because they don't want us to learn the truth, but sometimes they tell us the truth in ways that serve us. So that's why I use their quote directly here, because I looked up granite in Wikipedia. Of course, the pyramids are made of granite. Granite is a coarse-grained, intrusive igneous rock composed mostly of quartz, of alkali feldspar, and plagioclase. Well, alkali feldspar is mostly, guess what, silica. And so is plagioclase. It's a silicate, which means it's got a lot of silica in it. These things together form from magma with a high content of silica and alkali metal oxides that slowly cools and solidifies underground. So we know that crystal receives and transmits because we use it in electronics. And we know that crystal is quartz. And we know that quartz is silica. And we know that granite is composed mostly of quartz and silica. So therefore, it shouldn't be very hard to believe, as some modern archaeologists are teaching us, the ones that have stepped beyond the mainstream narrative, are teaching us that the pyramids did so much more than what we thought. And one of the theories is that they received and transmitted information. So I don't know whether they did or whether they didn't, but here is proof that they could. When your third eye is open, you're more intuitive, you're more receptive, you're more creative and inspired, and you're open to new ideas and you are tuned in. When your third eye is closed, you feel blocked in those things. So you might be an inventor, an artist, a musician, a creator of another kind, such as a technology developer, software engineers, electrical engineers, all use their creative instinct when they're designing things. Architects, anybody who designs or creates is using their intuition. You don't have to be a psychic. When your third eye is open, you don't have to be a psychic. It doesn't necessarily make you psychic. It makes you a well-balanced person who can leverage the natural skills and talents that you were given at your birth. So there are levels of awakening, and you don't have to be awake on all of them to be awake. When your third eye is blocked, you can be blocked in all of those qualities. You tend to be very skeptical about things. It's very difficult to convince you of things if you can't see it, touch it, feel it, read the proof. Of course, we haven't proven everything yet. There is a lot of metaphysics that could potentially be real science but has not been proven. But we're very, very fond of creating theories and trying to explain things. Even when we're not quite right, we demand scientific explanation for things. But some things, we just haven't reached that point in understanding of quantum mechanics yet where we can prove everything. There's nothing wrong, by the way, with wanting the science behind things. I'm not suggesting that people believe everything, everything they're told or anything like that. But there is a certain kind of skepticism or closed offness or narrow-mindedness about people who have a closed third eye. It's different from being careful or being cautious or doing good research. What blocks the third eye? The number one thing that blocks it is fluoride. We'll talk about the physical things first. So fluoride calcifies, it has an affinity for the little calcite crystals in your pineal gland, and it calcifies them. So added fluoride isn't necessary for good dental health in a balanced diet. Fluoride actually occurs naturally in a lot of foods. You do need it. It is a chemical mineral that your body does need to operate effectively, but it is naturally occurring in most foods. The problem comes when, like most things, they put too much, when there's too much in the water or too much in the toothpaste, or they give you those dental treatments which permeate your teeth and go right into the fluoride goes right into your bloodstream. Your skin and your teeth and your hair are very porous. They will take minerals in. So you want to be careful what you put on the outside as well as what you take in the inside. And they have this modern thing now for babies, fluoridated water. Very, very dangerous. Fluoride causes sterility and it blocks the pineal gland. And too much of anything isn't good for you. So please do consider using natural sources like spring water when you're thinking of feeding your baby. More things that block pesticides. This is why organic food is so important now and it's becoming much more readily available. You should continue to ask for it in stores that don't have a large supply of organic food. Speak with your money. Where your money flows, energy goes. Put your money into those things you believe in. Search out and pay extra for organic food that you're going to put into your body rather than stuff that's been coated in pesticides. The glyphosates are especially bad. Now, I say here that Alzheimer's has been linked to unbalanced levels of melatonin and the standard American diet, SAD, or also known as the modern American diet, MAD, because many of us don't think. We just eat. We just walk around the supermarket and grab things and trust that it's all going to be good for us. In fact, 90% of food sold in the supermarket is not good for us. So stay in the produce aisle, stay in the fresh foods aisle, stay in the living foods aisles, and shop wisely and eat wisely, and you will be much better off for it. So many of the big diseases, Alzheimer's, cancer, etc., have been linked to so many things that it's really hard to know where the truth is. But we definitely know that diet is what our body uses for building blocks. The food we put in becomes the building blocks of our body. So as you're putting, junk food into your body, think about what that's building for you versus eating an apple or an orange or having a salad, how that would be helping you more. Aluminum. Many processed foods contain aluminum, especially if they contain wheat, because they've most likely got baking powder in them as well. Breads and cakes and things like that are mostly cooked with baking powder. So be careful about that. You can buy baking powder that doesn't have aluminum in it, but you may not find that in the products, the pre-baked goods that you're buying in the store. Deodorant contains aluminum as well. Some deodorants claim to be aluminum free, but when you turn them over and read the ingredient list, you'll see that there is a salt of aluminum in there. So look out for anything that contains the word alum, basically, because they might be calling it something else, a derived salt of aluminum, and they'll say it's aluminum free, but it's not really aluminum free. In homeopathy, the remedy aluminum, because there's a remedy for almost all things in nature in homeopathy. The remedy aluminum, if somebody needs aluminum, they have the unique problem of confusion of identity. They don't know who they are. I found that very interesting because that's what happens when you have Alzheimer's. You don't know who you are. You have confusion of identity and confusion of a lot of other things too. So maybe there's a link there somewhere too. Anyway, if at all possible, stay away from the aluminum as well. The biggest mental emotional thing that blocks us from opening our third eye is fear. We're afraid of what we're going to see or what we're going to learn. We're afraid of becoming claircognizant, of knowing that bad things are going to happen to us and those we love. We're afraid of becoming clairvoyant and seeing ghosts and ghoulies and all kinds of negative spirits. But that isn't necessarily what happens, you see. Opening your third eye might mean that you become outrageously creative, or you become inspired with a new project or a new lease on life. It might mean that you finally write that book that you've been blocked on. It might mean that you finally compose that piece of music you've been trying to be inspired about. Doesn't necessarily mean you're just going to see, a bunch of negative things when your third eye is open. That's not how it works at all. For some of us, it goes beyond fear of this lifetime into a fear that is deeply embedded in our Akashic remembrance. Your Akash is the record of past lives. So, for example, if you would have been in a past life burned at the stake, you have an Akashic remembrance of that, even though you may not have a conscious remembrance of that. By definition, the way life works is when we come into a new one, we forget past lives because then we are biased by what we have cognized or internalized from past lives, whereas this new life that you are in deserves the best chance with a sort of a clean slate. So we come in with literally a clean slate, but there is a part of us, and if you read the work of Bruce Lipton and others like him, Candice Pert, you will realize that the energy of that is trapped in the cells of your body, and it's also in the human energy field. It's in your aura. So you have this Akashic remembrance, whether you realize it on a conscious level or not, and it can impact the things we do. That's why people might be afraid of heights if they've, been thrown off a cliff, been murdered and thrown off a cliff in a past life. They may come in with an inexplicable fear of heights, that kind of thing. Last but not least, we are our own worst enemy when it comes to this kind of thing. We laugh at each other, we call each other crazy, and make each other feel embarrassed and humiliated for having what are actually natural selection gifts. Having psychic abilities is a power above what most people are aware that they have. I believe everybody has psychic ability, but most people aren't aware of it, so they don't exercise it, and like a muscle, it just gets lazy. But those of us who do use the power of our third eye often get laughed at and humiliated or talked down, or our parents tell us, oh, don't be silly, you're just imagining it, that kind of thing. And this drives it out of us. They want us bound to the authority figures. They don't want us to know, because when you understand what power you have, you are so powerful. We are so powerful. When we understand that, we would overcome all negative agendas on earth. And we are moving towards that. We are doing that more and more each day. And that's why they are so afraid of the power of us. So afraid of what we can do when we unite. That's why they try to keep us divided. United we stand, divided we fall. It's a ages-old tactic, divide and conquer. That's what they do with race, with gender, with sexual orientation. They deliberately try to divide us. But we can rise above them. Okay, so a lot of people on the awakening path, especially when their third eye starts to open, they come and they ask me, what can I do to protect myself? How can I feel safe? How can I let go of the fear? Well, the first thing is to stay out of negative thinking. And you get there, I think, when you reach a point that you just become ready. You just reach that point where you're like, you know what? She's right. You know what? They're wrong. And I'm just going to go for it. You sort of have to take your courage in both hands and just determine that you're not going to let anybody fearmonger you. You can ask your angels to walk with you and bring the light. Everybody has angels around them. Everybody has a spiritual energy team that is working with them. You may not know their names. You may know their names. You may encounter them. If you do, your third eye's already sort of open. But if you don't know them, just ask, just ask in general of those who are around me, those angels that are around me, please walk in the light with me. What I teach in Reiki class, though, is to shine your heart light, to shine your light. Your light is your most powerful weapon. Where there is light, there is no darkness. There is no measurement of darkness. There is only measurement of light. Science does not have a measurement of darkness. It has lumens, lux, photons. These are all measurements of light. So if you walk in the light, if you become the light, if you have positive thoughts, if you're an uplifted person, if you are connected in spiritually, then you are the light. We are all the light, but some of us don't know that we are. And when you shine your light, that is your most powerful weapon, because like attracts like. And where there is light, there can be no darkness. So when you are the light, the negative energy cannot come into your awareness. Or if it does, it can't impact you because you are not in fear, because your free will is not allowing that in. All life in this universe must respect free will. Free will is a law of this universe. It's a universal law. And when you do not allow negative energies to attach to you, to stand in your energy space, to impact you, then they can't. But you have to ask them with conviction to leave. So this is my sacred space. All those who are not 100% of the light must leave. You can command them to leave, but you must command them with conviction. They're like horses. They know when you are scared. There are certain foods that are especially useful for decalcifying the third eye. I talked before about fresh herbs, especially watercress, parsley, and cilantro. I don't know if watercress is technically a herb, but you get the idea. Parsley and cilantro, especially when combined with lemon juice or lime juice, because one of them detoxifies and the other releases the toxins from the body. So I think it's the lemon and lime juice that helps the body release the toxins after parsley and cilantro has helped to purge them from your system. Those are especially good on aluminum and other heavy metals as well. Lots of nuts, because nuts are living foods, especially pine nuts, because they resonate with the pineal gland, as we saw earlier. But all kinds of nuts are good because they have lots of omega-3. They balance the omega-3 and 6. Omega-3 is very good for brain health generally. Drink only distilled or spring water, not fluoridated water. Now you might say, what about purified water? Well, this is a very controversial topic, but in my opinion, and that's all that it is, purified water, if you read the ingredients, has added minerals. They put minerals back in. Now there's nothing wrong in general with the minerals that they talk about, except for we don't know the source of those minerals. All minerals that are chemically made and not naturally occurring are going to be inorganic, which means your body doesn't use them in the same way, especially calcium. That's a topic for another video, but be very cautious about anything that has added chemicals, added vitamins, or added minerals, because they're rarely naturally occurring. However, drink lots of water in general, because water, of course, your body's 70% water. You need to stay hydrated. Everybody knows that. Eat plenty of raw vegetables and fruits, because they are going to be alkaline. Cooked ones are alkaline as well, but if you've added anything to them, like sauces and butter and stuff like that, then you're changing them slightly. So the raw, straight from nature, raw fruits and vegetables, your body needs to be alkaline at all times. If it gets too acidic, you die. But you can't tell when it's acidic, because when it becomes acidic, your body automatically adjusts by robbing itself of calcium. This is one of the causes of osteoporosis, is a highly acidic diet, and the body's constantly robbing itself of calcium. It's the only alkaline substance in the body to balance itself. Oh, here I've named some oils: neem, oregano, raw cocoa powder. Not the same as chocolate. However, chocolate does contain cocoa, but raw cocoa powder, chlorophyll and seaweed extracts, and apple cider vinegar. All of these will help you decalcify your third eye, and I'm sure there's lots more too, but these are just the ones in my awareness. And then don't use fluoridated toothpaste or anything with added fluoride, including tap water. Don't use deodorant containing aluminum or any aluminum salts, or baking powder that contains aluminum. You can use baking powder that doesn't contain aluminum, which you have to buy and then make your own baked goods. And I should also add, don't eat a diet that's too heavy too acidic, and that includes too heavy in protein. Protein is very acidifying. Even healthy, responsibly sourced protein is acidifying to the body. Activities that support the third eye, obviously following your intuition. When you listen to your intuitive guidance, it grows stronger. When you ignore it, it stays very quiet and it's hard to hear. Meditation, because it clears your mind. Listening to your hunches, that's the same thing as following your intuition. Going with your gut feeling, that's the same thing as following your intuition. Stop overanalyzing. Not saying you shouldn't rationalize or reason the things you do, but sometimes you have to come from the heart energy and not from the logical mind energy. So don't overanalyze everything. Don't overthink it. If your intuition is telling you to do it, it might be a good thing to do it. Now, having said that, if I was not completely tuned in with my intuition, I wouldn't make life-changing decisions until I had tested the waters by making smaller decisions that are intuitively guided and building confidence in my intuitive sense. Because when you first start listening to your inner guidance, it's hard to know where is your intuitive voice and where is your ego voice. Get out in nature on a sunny day. We talked about the sun and serotonin and melatonin. And spending time around animals, we talked about that. Practice telepathy with your pets. Your pets are very telepathic. So one way you can practice telepathy with your pets, if you have a dog and you've trained it to sit, you can just look in your dog's general direction, catch its eye, and mentally tell it to sit. And practice doing that and see if you can get it to actually sit without actually saying the command or a hand movement, like nothing, just sitting there, telling it to sit with your mind, and see if you can get it to do that. Or talking to your dog in other ways from your mind, telepathic communication. Dogs are very telepathic. So are cats and horses. They all are. They're tuned in energetically as well as telepathically. So they're reading your energy all the time, and you can use your energy to communicate with your pets as well as your words. Playing with oracle cards, buy a pack that appeals to you and draw a card a day, and then read in the book what it is, and then practice reading it without the book, and you will build your intuitive powers. Learning the tarot, and receive or learn Reiki. So when you take a Reiki class, for example, it definitely strengthens your intuition, your third eye, your psychic abilities. I've watched many students, especially it seems when they transition from Reiki 1 and 2 to Reiki Master, especially under the Holy Fire system that is the Reiki that I teach. I've watched many people, like their third eye just like pops wide open and they're suddenly way more psychic and tuned in with their angels than they ever were before. And I know that definitely happened with me as well at that transition point between 1 and 2 and Master. Of course, I'm not making any promises or saying that it's the same for everybody. I'm just saying that in general, I've witnessed it many times. Learning the tarot is similar to learning oracle cards. You just buy a deck and then start drawing from the deck and then reading in your book what that means, and then putting together your own intuitive thought based on the picture on the card and what comes into your mind. When you exercise a muscle, it grows stronger, and your third eye is exactly the same. Here's an interesting question. Why isn't everyone psychic? I believe that everyone has the ability to be psychic, and many people have chosen to ignore their psychic abilities for all the reasons that I've talked about. In general, it's not encouraged. We are not encouraged to be psychic, even though I showed you the pineal gland and the 2 peacocks. They're outside the Vatican. Vatican very well understands about metaphysical power, but they don't want us to use it. So, as they rewrote the Bible in the, who was that emperor? Emperor Constantine's days in the 300s, when they rewrote the Bible and edited it, and it's been edited in every edition since. Why do you think there are so many editions? Because they keep editing it, because they keep editing the message that they want us to get. So it's all very well and good for Jesus to have these powers, but we don't have them. At least that's what they teach us. But even though Jesus actually taught us, he came to teach us that we can have those powers. He said, I say unto you, he that believes in me, the works that I do shall he also do, and greater works than these shall he do. This is what he's talking about. He's saying, if I can turn water into wine, you can turn water into wine. You can even do more spectacular things than that. If you learn from me, how to do them. That's what he was saying. This is in the Bible. And I quote the King James Version because it's the oldest translated version that I have access to, that we have access to. So this is in John 14, chapter 14, verse 12. So why would you want to open up your third eye? Well, because it guides you. Your intuitive guidance comes through the third eye. Your intuitive guidance is the highest form of guidance. It comes directly from your higher self, which is beyond ego. And there is no guidance in the world that can compete with the guidance you receive inwardly from your own intuition. Your higher self, your spirit, knows the plan that you had when you came into this life. It knows what you're trying to accomplish. It knows the hurdles and the challenges you set for yourself. It knows the friends you decided to encounter, the people you decided to fall in love with or marry, the children you decided to have, who you chose as your parents, and all of the reasons why. And so the guidance that you receive from your higher self through your third eye, through your intuitive sense, is the very best guidance that is specifically individually tailored just to you. Nobody else knows that. Your mother doesn't know that. Your preacher doesn't know that. Your teacher doesn't know that. Your best friend of 25 years or 50 years or whatever doesn't know that either. Only your higher self knows that. And when you listen to your intuition, great things start to happen in your life. Here are some of the crystals. Obviously, all the purple crystals. I talk about the Synergy 12. I have the next slide lists the Synergy 12. If you haven't heard of those, the Book of Stones by Robert Simmons and Nisha Asian. I don't know how you pronounce that. The Synergy 12 is a group of 12 highly vibrating crystals that help to, when you get all 12 of them in a circle and sit in the circle, is a very high vibrational energy that helps to support you in astral traveling, in opening your third eye. It's a fairly complex group of crystals. Anyway, I've listed here some other ones. They're mostly like labradorite is very good. Labradorite's the one that has the flash. You know, flash, it's plain gray, but then it has that flash of color. And then the oils here come from Anne Wormwood's book, Aromatherapy for the Soul. The musical notes, the solfeggio 852 and the regular musical scale A in 432 hertz scale. And then the animals, the peacock, which we saw because it has the symbology of all the eyes, and the butterfly, because the butterfly transforms from a chrysalis, from a caterpillar. It awakens into a higher vibrating version of itself. It transforms, just as you do when your third eye opens and you transform from an ego-driven human to an intuitively led, higher spiritual being. And in the colors, indigo, lavender, purple, all of the lavender, purplish colors, and also blues, dark blues like indigo, are very good for third eye. There's a list of the Synergy 12. You can do a screen capture of that if you want to, or you can just go online, or you can buy the book. It's by Robert Simmons and Nisha Asian, called The Book of Stones. The archetypes. The dysfunctional archetype is the intellectual or the rationalizer. Now, I'm not talking about intellectuals in general. I'm talking about when you overanalyze, when you over-intellectualize, or when you rationalize everything, when you are too closed off, too closed-minded to hear arguments in favor of an opposing view. And the functional one is when you are intuitive or psychic, you start listening to your intuitive voice, your voice of deepest knowing, and not being afraid to follow your intuition even when it defies reason. So here are some purple auras. It's actually really hard to find purple auras, so it's very hard to find auras that resonate with the third eye and the crown. But so the pink colors are probably more third eye, probably more crown, probably more spiritual energy, and the purples are more third eye and the blues are more throat. So you will usually see at this level of evolution the people's chakras are very well balanced in, but these are two different people, by the way, with, you can see, quite similar auras. One is got a bit more pink and one's got a bit more blue, and very even balance of chakras. So as you get up into the higher vibrating energies, you'll find people who know how to quickly restore their peace when bad things happen. So these are both very peaceful people, and they know how to stay. They know how to stay there, which is not to say that they don't ever get rattled, but when life rattles them, they can come back to their place of peace easily. There's my references. And this is how you can reach me. All right, so there you have it, the third eye. There's only one chakra left in my series of the 7 primary chakras, and that is the crown chakra, and I'll be dealing with that in the next month or two. So please subscribe if you want to be notified when that one is available. And thank you so much for watching. I appreciate all of you, and I hope you stay well.